Thank you, mate. Feel free to speak up next time in case I miss your message. Can you hear me okay now? Yeah. So tonight I will be talking about metta. Metta is a Pali word. The Sanskrit word is maitri. Maitri. It means kindness, friendliness, loving kindness, something like that. And it is one of what's called the Brahma Viharas, which I will get to in a minute. So what I'll do tonight, I'll talk a little bit about the history, and I'll talk of how it comes into the canon and how it comes down to us. Then I'll talk more about what it actually is, what it is, and then talk a little bit about practices around it. It doesn't make a grand appearance in the Theravadan texts. There's two places where it shows up, really. The first is one people these days tend not to look at so much, which is in a number of the suttas. Buddha talks about the jhanas, which are the concentration states, the absorption states, which are the ones where there's an analogy with water. It's kneading soap flakes with water, and then the water in a valley that's fed by springs. So it's settling into deeper and deeper, calmer and more peaceful meditation states. Alongside that, he often then says, okay, and now radiating the Brahma Viharas. So, okay, metta radiated in the four directions, sometimes the four intermediate directions, then above and below. And he goes through the four Brahma Viharas, which again I'll get to in what those are. That's not the way it's practiced these days for the most part. Well, I'll get to that a bit as well. So at the other place it shows up, there's a rather obscure text in the Pali Canon called the Patisampiddhimagga, which translates as something like the path of analytical discrimination, the path of discrimination. There are four baskets of suttas. There are five. There's the four we usually use, which are long, middle, short, numerical discourses. And then there's a fifth one, which is the rest, which includes Metta Sutta. It includes the Theravada, the Theragatha and Theragatha, which are the poems of the elders, the awakened monks and nuns. It includes the Dhammapada, and it includes this book. It includes all the Jataka tales as well, the stories of Buddha's past lives. And it includes this book. And in this book, it seemed to me highly improbable it had anything to do with Buddha's actual teaching. It's very analytical. And this is the one where it starts going through the list of, with metta, practice for yourself, then for a benefactor, and then for a neutral person, an enemy, or a difficult person, and then for the world. And you go through the four lines, which roughly are be safe or protected, happy or have pleasant states of mind and body, and then ease of well-being or equanimity or some such. So that's where it shows up. And then, so that's where it shows up in the canon. Then it's kind of practiced a little bit, and it's really picked up, as best I can tell, about 100, 200 years ago in Myanmar, practiced by the monastics there, and it comes into the West through a couple of particular teachers there. So it's kind of a strange history. It's not deeply embedded in the canon. But it's kind of important. And the piece that is embedded in the canon more deeply is this place associated with the concentration practices, where it's the radiation, which I think is really interesting. So what it is, the Brahma Viharas, there are four of them. They are metta, which is this kindness, friendliness, loving kindness. Karuna, which is compassion. Mudita, which is joy or sympathetic joy. Upekkha, which is equanimity. What those four really, what you're doing with those four, if you're radiating that, or if you're using the lines, and the lines are different for each of those four in the practice and Vidimana. If you're working with those, if you're practicing with those, then fundamentally what you're doing is you're wishing people to be happy. Metta, this kindness, this friendliness, it's simply wanting people to be happy. And it's an antidote for ill will. What do you want to do? Do you want somebody to not be happy? No, you want them to be happy. If you're ever feeling any negative feelings towards somebody, turn that and just start feeling metta. Start projecting metta. Start working with metta. So metta is just simply wanting people to be happy. Karuna, compassion, that's what metta looks like when you meet somebody who's suffering. Compassion is wanting somebody who is experiencing dukkha to be happy. It's wanting their suffering to go away and for them to be happy. Mudita, which is joy, translated sometimes as sympathetic joy, is what happens when that wish for happiness meets happiness. If there's somebody who's happy, feel happy because they're happy. And you want them to continue to be happy. You want their happiness to deepen. And equanimity is what metta looks like when it meets a situation where there's not much you can do. And the two situations, totally different kind of situations, but two that come to mind for me are so there's a story, and I'll go through the whole story and then you get to this piece. It comes from Sayadaw U Pandita, probably not original, but that's where I came across it. He says, there's a mother with 4 kids. He had one little baby in her arms. She just wants that kid to be happy. She wants it to grow up to be healthy and happy. Kid 2, 3 years old, is sick, lying in a bed. You want that kid to get better. That's compassion. 3rd kid, teenage girl who's on sports teams. Her exams are going well. She's happy. She's got lots of friends. Sympathetic joy. You are there with her in her happiness, wanting her to be happy and feeling happy because she's happy. Oldest child, married, kids of his own. Kids are doing well. His career's going well. His wife's career's going well. They don't need much. There's not much you can do for them. Equanimity. That's what happiness looks when. That's what this metta looks like when it meets something where there's not much that can be done. Another place that equanimity can show up. We talked about compassion when you want your child to get better, but a lot of the time when you're in the presence of somebody who's really sick, equanimity is an appropriate manifestation of this wish for happiness, because there's really not much you can do. All you can do is just be there with them. And an obvious example is this country right now. We just went through an extensive process that lasted several months, where something like 2/3, 3/4 of the people in this country were terrified, truly terrified, that their way of life, the American dream, democracy, the whole system of American values was going to be taken away from them. And each of them thought the other half of that 2/3 was going to do it to them. Right? I mean, but that's just, there's so much suffering in there. What do you do with that? Equanimity is a good way for this wish for happiness to land there, because all you can do is be there with it, really. And maybe that's not all you can do, but for a lot of us, the way to respond to that is to just be there with that. There's one of the suttas that I particularly like is the um, Karaniya Metta Sutta is what it's called, and it's about a page long. I won't go through all of it, but I will bring out some of the elements of it because it talks. Well, I'll skim it. The first section talks about the way of life of one who wishes to break through to the state of peace, and is to be capable, upright, straightforward, gentle, not conceited, easy to instruct. These are ways to comport yourself. And it's about metta. It's the Metta Sutta, but it's about how to live life. Be upright and straightforward. Be gentle. Do not do the slightest thing the wise would later censure. So it's saying that if we want other people to be happy, we should look inward and live this very well anchored, virtuous life. Very stable. Goes on. As a mother would protect her child, her only child, even so one should cultivate a limitless heart. With goodwill for the entire cosmos, cultivate the heart limitlessly. This is not about loving everybody without limit. This is about cultivating the heart without limit. It's not about caring for others, it's about caring for the heart that cares for others. Which is a very different take on this. It's again, it's lined up much with that first chunk, which is about how we live our lives, really focusing on how we live our lives. Don't do the slightest thing the wise would later censure. We know what the right thing to do is. If we slow down and we pay attention and we look inside, we know what the right thing to do is. It is always to be kind. It's not to be kind to somebody we like or kind to somebody who has a similar belief system. It's to be kind to everybody. It's not just to want people we like to be happy, it's to want everybody to be happy. And it's actually profoundly self-serving. Because if you practice this, you will find that the only way you can be happy is to do this. It's the only way to be happy. So cultivating the heart limitlessly, it's about paying attention to opening our heart to offer kindness to others and to feel the suffering of others. Above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without enmity or ill will. So just everywhere. We open our heart up everywhere. So those of you who have stable meditation practice, particularly those who've been on some kind of retreat, will be familiar with the experience of really kind of settling down into meditation. It's very still, it's very cool. And these metaphors, the jhana metaphors of water, are very useful metaphors. To me, they really do describe it. The water is talking about the calmness and the coolness. And as we settle down, we're settling into this place where it's like we're floating in water, cool, still water. It's beautiful. It can't be described, but the metaphors of similes really help. So we're going to have some familiarity with it. I would posit that it's not so much that we're settling down into that. Instead, what's happening is, as we settle, we're letting go, we're releasing the layers of things that we just have on top of us, the stories, the desires, the greed, the animosity, the stuff. We let it all stick. So we get heavier with all of this stuff. And then it's sticky, so more stuff sticks to it. And as we settle down, this all starts to flake away, and we can see more clearly who we really are. And we really are, each and every one of us, we really are just naturally this peace, this boundless, limitless, exquisite peace. That's what we really are. This is what this is why it's talked about as self-realization, self-realization, because it's this discovery. It's what people say, you're already a Buddha, you just don't know it. The knowing is kind of important, so it's kind of a double-edged phrase, but that's what that's about. The experience, if we really engage in metta practice, that experience of love, and if you've ever been in love, if you have a child and you experience your relationship with your child or your parents, there's this openness and vulnerability, and there can be the same valence. But just this peace in that relationship. So the Brahma Viharas, it's not an accident that the place that they're shot most meaningfully, although it's not used as much as perhaps it might be, but it shows up most meaningfully in the Pali Sutras. The place the Brahma Viharas shot is right alongside the jhanas. That's not an accident, because they're doing the same thing. The jhanas are describing what these states of peace are like, is sort of the absorption settling there, and these radiations of Brahma Viharas, which means divine abodes. Brahma is a divinity of some sort, and Vihara, monastic communities live in Viharas these days, so it's an abode. So radiating the Brahma Viharas similarly, it's releasing their antidotes for all of our ill will, all of our animosity. Jealousy is what's released if we feel loving kindness when somebody else is happy. Right? So we're releasing all of our stuff, and it's doing exactly the same. It's opening up this state of profound peace. So the way this is usually practiced these days is the verses. There's generally 4 lines. The version that I use most has 8. So may you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be free from fear. May you be healthy in body and mind, which is putting the 2 lines of body and mind together. If you cannot be healthy in body and mind, may you be at peace with whatever comes, which I think is a really useful add. Because not everybody is going to be happy, healthy in body and mind, but may you be at peace. May you be held in compassion, which is the second of the Brahma Viharas. May you be filled with loving kindness, which is the first of them. May your suffering be a kind and a wise teacher. We all have suffering. What matters isn't whether we have suffering or not, it's our relationship to that suffering. We could get caught up in it and start resisting it, get angry about it, be unskillful in how we try and address it. Or we can shift to a place where we allow it to be a teacher. May your suffering be a kind and a wise teacher. And may you find joy and equanimity, which are the third and the fourth of the Brahma Viharas, in this present moment. All we've got, folks, this present moment, it's all about what we do right now. Just as it is. The gap, the suffering is simply the gap between the way things are and the way we want them to be. May you find joy and equanimity in this present moment, just as it is. So there are a number of different lines, and what matters is you understand the principles, what this practice is about, and then tweak the lines and find ones that work for you. But that's reciting these lines and start with ourselves. Many people find difficulty in this individualistic and society where there's such a thing as low self-esteem. Many people find difficulty doing that. So you can have somebody in front of you looking at somebody you love and you know you're comfortable receiving that from. Christianity has Jesus loves me. That's self-metta, really. It's a very simple and beautiful way of applying self-metta. And then so self, benefactor, neutral person, difficult person within your capacity. So there are going to be some people where right now you will have difficulty offering loving kindness with these lines. Either scale back the offering or bring the person back within your limits. So they're a little bit difficult, not really, really difficult. And right, then the whole world. And the whole world is taking us to the place where the main presence in the Pali Canon is, which is the radiation you're radiating to all beings. So in the Pali Canon, going back to that again, a way to practice that is to allow yourself in meditation, allow yourself to experience, it becomes like a self-guided meditation, allow yourself to experience metta. Can be from a pet, can be from a spouse or a parent or a child. Allow yourself to just experience and receive metta and bring it into your heart and spread it through the body. So fill yourself with metta. It can be an energy, it can be a light, a bright white light, different ways of visualizing it. But visualize yourself filling up with metta. And then radiate it forward. The whole quarter, right? Radiate it 90 degrees, but just radiate it. And you can do what you like with that. And I tend to just follow it out and, I know roughly what direction I'm facing. So I know, I'm going in the morning, the direction of my meditation cushion in the morning. There are certain neighbors who are in the immediate field, and it goes through downtown Clarkston, and then it takes in the whole of Atlanta, and then we go out west, and we got the great open spaces, and then we get out to California, and then behind. So then go north, and there's people up there, and I go behind me, more neighbors on out across the Atlantic to the country I grew up in, the UK and Europe. So there are a number of different ways, whatever you want to do, but you're radiating, and you're just radiating the light. And then above and below, you can regard those physically. But I think originally, the intention of above and below was we live in a vertical space, so we live in a horizontal space. Above and below are the other realms. And in many traditions, we've got heaven, which is above the sky, and we've got hell, which is below the earth. So without creating a heaven or a hell, these are just other realms where other beings that we don't normally see exist. So we're radiating to all beings. And so within this radiation, as the radiation kind of stabilizes, you can come to realize there's not even a you, there's not a me in the middle of this. There's just this radiation of loving kindness, which is precisely the emptiness, the peace, the stillness of those absorption states. So I have come to find, and I picked that up from Dhammadika, who had a retreat here and offered that as a guided meditation a while ago. But I've found that to be the most useful way of practicing metta for me these days. And the last thing I'll say about it, and then I'll push the buttons and we'll have a conversation about it. Back to the today, these are very difficult times. Of those, 2/3 of the population who thought their way of life was going to be was at risk of being taken away from them, half of that, 2/3, significant portion of them today, think it has been. And there's a huge amount of suffering, huge amount of anxiety, almost panic, a number of people. And we come to a meditation practice for a place of peace, for a place of calm, for a place of safety in the middle of the storms. But when the storm is so strong, it's bringing up these really strong energies of anxiety, even panic. There's just too much noise. It's just too much to let us settle down into this place. So a meditation practice can cease to be useful at a time like this. There are things we can do that help. And metta, taking a metta practice, can be a really helpful way of doing it. We can bring our metta practice onto the cushion. That's still not helpful. Walking meditation with metta practice, or just in everyday life when we get to this place, just bringing metta practice in. And recognizing the truth. Amulet Hammer, I can't be free till everybody's free. Truly recognizing that my peace, my happiness is dependent on everybody else's happiness, and just feeling that connection. All right, that's enough. Let me